It's happened before and will happen again. Ray Dalio's last warning. The founder of Bridgewater Associates, a very prominent investor and billionaire, Ray Dalio, often speaks about the extreme economic situations that are about to hit the economy of the United States. He has studied history, and so in 2008, he predicted the financial crisis. He believes that this is actually a cycle, and it has happened before and is going to happen again very soon. But the most important thing is to know the reasons that result in a financial crisis so that we can avoid the crisis. The good thing is that he knows the reason too, because he studied 500 years of history and has figured out the reason and has suggested some strategies, so applying those strategies will help us avoid the economic crisis. Recently, he has warned that a financial crisis is on the way, and we have to adopt some strategies to avoid it. Otherwise, every American will have to face the consequences. This video will go over his recent warnings. What did he say? Why is an economic crisis on the horizon to hit the United States economy, and what do we have to do? Let's get started. Right now, as we see it, the United States is imposing sanctions on Russia. The sanctions are a kind of economic war, and those sanctions mean we want to implicate the dollar system in the world, but the countries are trying to get rid of the dollar system. The countries on which the United States is imposing sanctions have good relationships with other countries. For instance, Russia is dealing directly with India. And so they are trying to get rid of this dollar system that we want to apply to the whole world. The dollar system is being changed. Those who have hold assets in dollars don't want to hold them anymore because they believe they are going to be grabbed. The events that are taking place right now and the things that are happening now have happened many times before. And if we don't know how they happen and why they happen, we won't be able to deal with them. It happened in the 70s. Ray Dalio says he used to be a clerk at the New York Stock Exchange. President Nixon announced, "We will not give you the gold that the dollar is backed by." And after that, it resulted in the devaluation of money. When Ray Dalio studied history, he found that it had happened many times before. The same announcements took place, the same steps were taken, and the consequences were almost the same. In 1933, President Roosevelt made exactly the same announcement, and the same thing happened at those times. When Ray Dalio studied history, it was easier for him to foresee the economic crisis that took place in 2008. Now he believes that another economic crisis is coming, and we have to be prepared for it. We have to learn from our past because it is a guide for us. He also predicts the changing world order and that there is a likelihood of war. According to him, there are 5 types of war: economic war, trade war, technology war, geopolitical influence war, and military war. We are in a geopolitical influence war with some countries. These are the things that result to other countries to become independent and self-sufficient. All that leads to deglobalization and rise of nationalism. It has a significant effect on the stock market too. The value of money decreases. When you run very large deficits, you will have to spend more money on many social programs and on defense systems and some environmental programs. So when governments spend more money than they earn, they usually print more money to be able to purchase, and all that devalues money. And that's what has happened 2 times before. First it happened in 1971, and again in 2008. It also happened in Zimbabwe. The more money is printed, the more it devalues. So the cash becomes trash, and then the bondholders start having negative returns. There are 2 ways to deal with debt. You pay your debt in hard money, which is backed up by a valuable commodity such as gold, or you pay your debt in soft money. If you have your debt in the form of hard money, you have a problem and would eventually have to abandon it. You would have to print money, which will inevitably devalue. It's exactly what happened in 1971 and 1933. So Ray Dalio highly recommends to think if you really want to have debt instruments among your assets. he believes they are bad assets. The other question Ray Dalio is concerned about is US dollar as a reserve currency. Will it remain a reserve currency? There are many types of alternative money developing now around the world, and these will competing with each other, means Dalio. Cryptocurrency's importance has surged, and it has become a means of exchange. The US dollar has to compete with these currencies too. Just think about the money stored in debt instruments. Those who have stored money in debt instruments are now getting poor returns. All of the currencies have a lot of debt. So if you are holding some cash, it means you are holding a debt instrument. So when you see one relative to the other, you will observe a lot of money being printed. This is how money devaluation occurs and the inflation rate increases. All of the currencies may devalue as compared to other things. The US dollar has to compete with other currencies, but we are observing a devaluation of the dollar. So we are going to enter that environment. There is a shift in the types of currencies, and there is a risk that the US dollar will no longer remain a reserve currency. India is dealing directly with Russia on currency. China's renminbi is largely being used for trading. As of 2020, it has become the 8th most traded country. The store of wealth has become a problem, especially for the US dollar. Some other countries are facing the same issue. What will happen when you are storing your wealth, but its value is declining? That's how inflation rises and the economy is destroyed. Ray Dalio believes that there are large gaps between inhabitants of the United States in terms of wealth and opportunities, and due to these social media and economic gaps, we are seeing civil conflict. We are almost in the middle of this civil war due to populism. People are fighting for their way of doing things rather than compromising. There are political differences too that can be seen in everyday news. The changing world order is another important factor that needs to be taken into consideration. The relative decline of the United States and the rise of China and other countries like Russia and India have resulted in a geopolitical influence war. In 1945, a new world order began, and as the United States got victory, so it determined how things should go. At that time, the United States had 80% of gold, which was a means of exchange at that time. Now, many countries are emerging in power and are getting stronger, which is resulting in economic competition. Throughout history, these types of competitions have been resolved by conflicts. And as we see the new conflicts are emerging right now, this is what Ray Dalio warns about. Now, what's his advice to deal with that situation? In that stagflation scenario, what is the best way to value your money or wealth? Well, according to Ray Dalio, owning debt assets is not a good option because they are subject to inflation. Holding debt instruments, equity like stocks or cash, is almost the same. Dalio advises to consider cost of money relatively to return on your money and look for investments bringing higher returns, which can be challenging during inflation periods. Diversification and buying different types of assets like real estate property, gold, crypto, etc. could be the way to keep up with or beat the inflation if future cash flows and returns are higher than cost of money. So guys, that's all for today's video. What's your opinion about this? Please tell us in the comments section below this video. If you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, please do so to support us. We will be back with another video. Until then, goodbye and peace.